thank you for taking the time to kind of look at the Sage 100 Contractor, quick overview of the Sage 100 Contractor system. My name is Control Lee here with Cherry Beckert, and today we're going to be going through Sage 100 Contractor as far as a quick overview. Why would a contractor really use this system? Before we dive into Sage 100 Contractor, kind of give you a little bit of history of the system. The system's been around on the market for about 45 years, developed out in Northern California, around in the San Francisco Bay Area. It was originally called OEMware for many, many years, and then it was sold to Intuit, who makes QuickBooks and TurboTax. And then roughly around 2006, Sage purchased the system, and it became today is known as Sage 100 Contractor. It's also known as Master Builder for those who have been on the system for a very, very, very long time. And the reason why we're here today is to give an overview of this system and why would a contractor use this particular system. A lot of times contractors, as they're coming out, most of us start on QuickBooks. That's when, the foundational accounting system. But as we start growing, our projects start getting a lot larger, our projects getting a little bit more complex, we need more of a job costing system. Something that's going to track our budgets, track our proposals, track our committed costs, such as purchase orders and subcontracts, and as well as giving us that true job cost. Exactly how much is it costing us to do a particular project or a particular scope of work within the actual system or within the project itself in the life cycle of a job. The reason why a lot of contractors really look at Sage 100 Contractor is because, one, it's a very cohesive system. And meaning by cohesive, in that it takes care of your project scheduling, it takes care of equipment, it can take care of scheduling reports, it can take care of work order management, it can also take care of inventory, as well as even estimating, and as well as on some other features known as project management. So it's a very cohesive system and how all of the pieces work together. Number two, it's also a scalable system. So a contractor, you've got contractors that are $500,000 in revenue with just one employee that uses the system, all the way up to $500 million in revenue with over 3,000 employees. It's a very, very scalable system. As a contractor grows, as the business grows, the revenue grows, the project grows, so does the system and the use of the system. Okay. So in Sage 100 Contractor, unlike a lot of other systems, this job is the star of the show. So without a project, there's not too many workflows that you can handle or do in Sage 100 without actually having a job set up in the system. And from a contractor standpoint, that is liquid gold, because I want to know exactly what's happening on the project at any given moment on any given day. Reason why that's important is because one project, for those of us that have been in the construction space for a very while, one project can do a lot of damage to a company. It can cause a company to lose a lot of money, it can cause a company to even go under, cause company to have to do layoffs, have company to sell pieces of equipment because one project went out of budget or went out of scope, or we weren't able to track the data correctly. Okay. I just read a statistic not too long ago by Busy. Since 2001 up to 2024, 83% of your contractors in America have gone out of business. So 17% of them are still around here in the last 24 years. And the reason why the 83% went out of business is because they failed to track the data. That's the number one reason why a contractor goes under, is because being able not to track the data and track the project correctly. Okay. So in this system, we have what is called Sage 100 Contractor. The job, as I said, is the star of the show. As we look here, we have what is called our job name. And our job name, as far as going to go out on all of our documents, as we're going out in sending documents out of the system, such as our purchase orders, our subcontracts, change orders, change order management, progress billing, any type of invoicing. This is going to be the job name that goes out on any external documents outside the system. Then we have what is called our internal job name. Our internal job name is if we're something, we have a internal lingo that we want to track. So we've got our basic job name and our internal job name. Okay. Then we have what is called the job statuses. And Sage is kind of soft, this philosophical debate, especially when it comes to completed and closed. What's a completed job? What's a closed job? We understand bid. We understand we didn't get the project and refused. We understand that we're in the actual contract phase. We're in kind of negotiating. And then we understand when we've been awarded the project and it moves to current. But what is completed versus closed? completed job is what it is. The job is getting completed, meaning that we have no more laborers out there on the project. There's no site foreman. There's actually the job itself, the building, the project itself is completed, but it's not completed from an accounting standpoint. So therefore, we still have, progress billings that we need to do. We need to bill retention. We may even be receiving, bills from our suppliers and our subcontracts. So it's not completed from an accounting standpoint, but it's completed from a project operation standpoint. So Sage 100 Contractor allows users to put the job in what is called a completed status, allowing you to still be able to do the accounting functionalities behind it. But at the same time, if somebody goes over into payroll and accidentally puts some payroll, it will come up and say, hey, this job is completed, because we know that their laborers should not be out there on the project. And then once the job is done from all the accounting standpoint, we've billed all the retention, we've received all the pay apps, we've received everything from our suppliers and our subcontracts, then we can move the job into close. Okay. And that is significant because at year end, or when we're done with the actual project, we can actually archive that particular project. And a lot of contractors, this is just sample data, a lot of contractors, when we implement the system, we set up the job number up here where it says 186 actually by the calendar year. So for instance, if you do 1,000 jobs in a year or less than 1,000 jobs in a year, we'll do 250001. So then until you get to 259999. And if you do more than 1,000, then we just keep taking it out. And what that allows us to do is to be able to actually look at projects in the year that they were done. So if I look at 26, 25, 24, 23, I know what year that project was in. So if I'm still in 2025 and I'm looking at a 23005, that means it lets me know that this job was still in 2023. As well as we can set up what is called job types. So 80 to 85% of the reports, especially the project management reports or job cost reports, can be ran on job type. So if we're looking at a particular segment of work that we want to set out and scope out or look at and kind of just look at from a job cost standpoint, we can set that out based on our job types. And these are customizable. So I can come out and click my little arrow to the right and I can set up all of my different job types. So when I go run my job cost reports, I have an option that says job type. I just put in what job types and it will pull and query those reports or query those jobs for those particular job types. Okay. Kind of looking at some information down here, kind of start from the top and then go down to the bottom. I'll talk about these little tabs. Now, one piece about the job, we're not doing the work for free. We're working for someone. So everybody works for someone, whether it's from the government or if it's a contractor, subcontractor, utility contractor, we're doing something. Who is the person that we're doing this work? Who is the one that's responsible for paying the contractor for the work? In this case, we have our client information. We pull in if we're tracking any type of sales tax district. So if we have tracked sales tax, we can run sales tax reports, as well as if we're tracking any type of payroll locale, where we have what is called a city local tax that we need to pay, county tax, state tax, or even city tax. Okay, so we could track the actual payroll locale. Then what we have is called our income account. Where does the revenue need to go when we post the actual AIA progress billing or even a time and material invoice or regular AR invoice? Where does the revenue need to go to? Then what we have is called a department. So where we can actually departmentalize the P&L, the profit and loss, also known as the income statement, where if we needed to run, say, commissions off of gross profit, we can run that by departmentalizing our income statement. Especially if we have multiple divisions, if we have multiple offices where the work is actually performed. So in this sample company, we have what is called California office and the Nevada office. And we can break out the actual P&L based on various locations. Certified reporting. Yes, Sage 100 Contractor does do certified reporting. It will take care of the full gamut of all the certified reports. So the DOL, WH-347, the federal reports. It also do your certified reporting, where you can actually track and pull those certified projects where you're tracking prevailing wage. So it does have a full gamut of the payroll system. Checking this box will then allow the system, when payroll is done, to say, yes, this is a certified project. Do we have any prevailing wages that we need to account for in this project? Yes, we can actually put in the prevailing wage. And as well as if we're tracking required federal and sick time, and if we need to post expenses or WIP to an asset account. A lot of times I see that in the home builder space, where if we're a home builder, we take the expenses posted to the where we're going to own the actual property, and then we're going to lease out the property in the car. Over here on the right hand side, we have our due terms, which is going to be pulled in from what is called on the AR side of it. So how often do we send out the invoice? What are the discount terms if we're tracking any discounts? And what is the discount rate? If we need to track finance rates, if somebody does not pay us on time, do we have any finance rates that we need to track? And as well as what our retention. So if we're holding our retention on this particular project, so every time we go out and do the G702, 703, the AIA or the progress bill, it will hold out the retention for us. And then once we've finished progress billing, get 100% complete on the progress bill, then we can bill the retention, and it's going to hold out 10% every single time. We also have the client PO, we have our client contract, and then we have what is our contract amount. How much are we charging out on this particular project? And then we have our balances, beginning balances and our current balances. Okay. This is just the framework. If you think about construction, you got to have a foundation before you start getting up to the walls until you get to the ceiling and the frame. So this is just our basic starting of the foundation of the project. Okay. Then we move over to contacts and personnel. This is a feature that many of us don't think about in construction, being in quite a few construction offices. A lot of times the phone is ringing and somebody's always on the phone looking for somebody's email, somebody's phone number, somebody's contact. And a lot of times we find out it's either on a piece of paper somewhere buried underneath the desk, or we find out that it's in somebody's head, so that's why we're calling, or it's buried in somebody's email. So that's why when you start setting up the project in the actual system, it's very important to make sure everyone that has access to this project, that's important to this project, that we want to put on the project contacts and personnel. So whether it be the architect, whether it be the GC, all the subcontractors, the suppliers, even some employees, the project manager, we want to make sure that everyone that is dealing with this project is on the project contact and personnel. That way, if anybody needs to get some access or find some information to get in contact with someone, only thing they have to do is open up the job setup, and they can contact contacts and personnel, and that information is there readily for them to access. Okay. Then we have who's the owner of the project. Back to our statement email, so we can email statements out of the system. As far as how much invoice, where the invoices are, how much is owed on those invoices, who's the estimator, the salesperson, and the actual job supervisor. Okay. Sage 100 Contractor has what is called job access list. And what that means is if I have a PM, that I have a lot of PMs and I don't want them looking at other projects, well, we set them up as job access lists. So when they open up the system, in case of Josh here, he'll open up the system, he'll only see his jobs, and the reports that he has will have his job information on it. So they're not able to look at other PM's information. They're only to see the information that has been assigned to them on the job setup. Okay. And of course we can import client contacts. Okay. Contact information, as I said, been in many construction offices, and it's always the same story. There's always somebody on the phone calling asking for some information. So as about that, then we have what is called our project dates and sales information. So this information is kind of some boilerplate information, project dates, sales information, when were the plans received, when was the bid completed. We're tracking any type of insurance, as well as when the project started, and any type of lien waiver information. So if we have a pre-lien, lien waiver, when was the lien released? And then we have some kind of information based on the sales side of the house, okay? Such as who's the lender. And a lot of this information, especially for those users that say, you know what, I don't need that information. You can come and click what is called F7 in the system, and you can change this field to be whatever you want it to be. And you get tested, you can make it required. So in the system, you can make certain fields required. So that way, everything is set up uniformly and set up the same way every single time. So you're not getting a job that is set up one way, somebody set up another job another way, somebody set it up a different way. This allows the system and allows each job to be set up the single way. So that way you get uniformity in the actual job setup. And so you can feel comfortable that everything is going to be set up the same way every single time. And I go out and I select save, and as you can see, it goes in and change my field. So a lot of these fields down here are customized. So you want to be careful in what fields you want to change, because then it can cause some problems later on down the road with the report. So I recommend that you start talking with a certified consultant when you start talking about changing some of the fields within the system. And then our last tab here is what we call our certified payroll. So certified payroll is tracking information from us from a reporting standpoint. Where was this project? What's the federal project number? What's the state project number? The type of work that we're doing. When was it rewarded? When was it rewarded? As far as the payroll ending date, when was it completed? And if we're working as a subcontractor, who is the prime contractor, city, state, and zip, and who is the awarding contractor? So all of this information is great for reporting when we talk about certified payroll. Okay. Now that we've kind of talked about the job, a little bit of the job setup, there are some things that happen behind the system, because a lot of times in a lot of accounting systems, we've got to jump all over the place to find information. But yet a lot of the information that is pertinent to this project outside of the reporting piece is right here on the job setup, telling me what's happening in the project. Okay. And so for instance, we have what is called our bid items. So bid items start out, if we're tracking bid items within the system, from, our base bids, if we need allowances, if we have, for instance, change orders, especially a lot of times on the home builders, where you have using bid items, where we have the base bid and we have allowances and change orders, where, for instance, we may put in an allowance for carpet. Right now the owner's not sure if they want carpet or if they want hardwood floor. So we may do an allowance within the system. So in this case, we have our bid items set up, our base bid, our overhead, and our profit on those particular bid items. Also, Sage does what is called phases. This is what we call a mini job inside of a larger project, especially for a contractor that is dealing with, say, for instance, I'm building multiple buildings. So I have building A, building C, building B, building C. And I have building A, and I want to track the cost and revenue to building A. I want to track the cost of revenue to building B. I want to track the cost of building and revenue to building C. Sage allows us to set up what is called job phases. It don't even have to be buildings. Say, for instance, I'm working on a gas station. I want to, track the parking lot cost and revenue different from the actual building itself. I may want to track it different from the landscape. So there are different ways for contractors to go in and set up what is called phases and what is called project phases, mini job inside of a larger project. Okay. Now, if the job is the star of the show, you can't have a star without a co-star. So the budget is the actual co-star of the actual system, because this is exactly what's telling us how much is it going to cost us to do a particular project, broken down by all the way from, if you think about a layer of a cake. So, you have your very base, which is going to be your cost types. And your cost types are material, labor, equipment, subcontract, and other. And I'm able to track some other, customized cost types. Then my next layer up is going to be the cost code. So I may have, material, in this case at this cost code at 554.40, which is mobilization and demobilization. I have a material $67, but I also have material at foundational framework at 4277.18. So I can have multiple cost codes to one cost type. And this becomes the building block of my actual budget, also known as estimate. Those words are interchangeable. You kind of hear it in the industry space, like, what's the estimate? Oh, this is the estimate. And what's the budget? This is the budget. So estimate and budget mean the same thing in Sage 100 Contractor, because it's based on my cost. Now, as you can see here, I have what is called hour changes, material changes. So not only am I able to track the original budget, but as the budget has been, change orders have been placed against the actual budget, I'm able to track those changes as well, which then will update my original budget, because we're not doing the work for free. There's a cost somewhere. So as you can see here, I'm able not only to track the original, but also track the actual change in scope and work, especially if we're doing self-performed, because we have hours. So we originally had 2,000 hours that we estimated for, but we have a change of 888 hours. And of that 888 hours, we can go run some reports and tell them how much is that is regular time, how much is that overtime, how much is that at double time, is it prevailing wage? So there are a lot of factors when we start talking about when we start making changes, okay? And we have a material, we have, like I said, looking at our totals down here at the bottom. And as we scroll over, we can see that our original budget is $461,000 based on all of our cost types, based on all the cost codes, giving me a total of the original budget. Okay. But now we have $32,000 worth of changes that have happened against the budget. So we've accumulated $32,000 worth of costs that we have against this particular project. So now we went from 461 up to 494. So now we're able to see and track the cost against that original budget and able to see the changes that have happened against the budget. Now showing us that our cost is $494,000, because the last thing I want to do as a contractor is to go in and I'm just going to keep changing the budget. No. We have a signed contract. We want to actually do an actual change order to show the scope of change that has happened in the budget. For that way, it makes us more efficient when we do job costing. So if we do a project similar like this, almost identical like this, the next time we can go in and we can kind of do some research, find out from our cost to complete, look at our change orders. Did we miss something? Did estimating miss something? Was there something that we did not account for within the actual estimate? Well, if that's the case, and we say, wow, we did miss some things. So therefore, then when we do our next project that's very, very similar, we can actually make it to be $494,000 because we know exactly where we were and making us more efficient in our job cost. Not only on the budget, but the system is able to track all of our purchase orders and subcontracts, our material costs. So every single PO that has hit this system is laying right here, or every PO that's hit this particular project is going to be right here on the project screen. Now, one thing that is very, very beneficial and one of the strongest features in the system is being able to get to the record of truth. Okay. So it's just more than just telling me, hey, record 95, purchase order 498. Yeah, it's $20,000. Okay. But where does that go? I can drill down to it, and it will take me to the actual record of truth. So now I'm able to kind of dig down to the details of what is happening, where this purchase order came from. It shows me now in the detail of the vendor, what parts came of it, exactly if it's open or if it's closed. In this case, this is actually closed. And then if I had any invoices that have been generated against this actual purchase order, all that information is readily right here. I didn't have to go dig in a file cabinet. I didn't have to go jump from one application over to another application to find it. And many instances don't have to go into a book, a 3-ring binder, and kind of search through to find out, hey, here's this purchase order, and here are all the invoices that go along with that PO. I could just drill down and find that information right here. And even then, if I'm wanting to go a little bit further, I can take it a little step further and drill all the way down to the actual AP invoice that was entered into the screen. Okay. Now, one thing that Sage also allows is, well, it's like, okay, that's the data entry. Can I attach? And this question comes up all the time in every demo I've ever done. Well, can I attach an image? Yes, you can. So I can come out here. I can take an image. I can scan it. And I can add, a website, I can add the file, I can add a scanned document. So I can take the actual AP invoice and I can add it directly to the record. And it will actually put a paper clip and it will actually show that record's always there. Same thing with the purchase orders. If I want to go down to the purchase order, I can add the same original purchase order there. So anywhere you see a paper clip within the actual system, you can add a scanned document to the system. Now, if you just a few of them, that's great. But when you start talking about one and I had a whole bunch of them, then we want to start talking about Sage's other product called Sage Paperless, which is a true paperless environment with AP workflow, OCR, and all those capabilities. But the system does allow us to store documents at the record level. Okay. And in this case, I'm going to say no. So there's all my purchase orders. It shows me the total of all my POs down here at the bottom. That's associated along with the vendor. And if I wanted to kind of add some vendors up, so if I say look at national, bulk, and hardware, I could just take this information and it would show me exactly the sum of the total of the purchase orders. Then what we have are not only purchase orders, which is a material cost, but we also got subcontracts. Looking at every single subcontract within the system and any changes that have happened against the subcontract. Same thing as I did with purchase orders, I could drill down on the subcontracts. And one thing about Sage, that Sage 100 Contractor, is because everybody does not have the same documents and everybody doesn't do the same type of subcontracts. So when I go out and issue a subcontract, I can take and print, and I can create what is called custom subcontract documents. So as I look out here, I can have all different type of subcontract documents, or I can put in the automotive insurance, the general liability, the work comp, the umbrella insurance, all of those pieces that go into a subcontract. It could be as many pages as I want it to be. That's great. I can put all that information out here. So if I have like first tailoring as my subcontract, I just print preview it and it will bring in a custom subcontract. All the reports in Sage will also have your customized logo on the actual reports. And so I can have a custom subcontract as it goes out the door. Okay. Now, one thing about Sage as in the system is, because it's more trying to go green, a lot of times in the old world, we used to go and print this off and take it to the scanner, scan it in, and then attach it to an email and send the email directly out the door. With Sage, you can email every report out of the system. So for instance, I can come out and I could just take the subcontract and just email it, put my subject in, put in my message, put in the number, email, put in the email contacts. I can send a copy to myself, and I can just take it and send it directly out of the system. So I don't have to actually go in and print, scan, and then attach an email and send it out. So my change orders, my purchase orders, my subcontracts, I can email that information directly out of Sage. Okay. One thing about, as far as even in subcontracts, Sage will track the certificates of insurance. So if I have a particular vendor that has vendor insurance is expired, this is very, very huge. And you know, especially in the GC space, and those that actually work with a lot of subs, is you don't want to end up paying a vendor and their certificates of insurance are expired. So Sage has where you can bring in and track the certificate of insurance. So when you go and enter the AP invoice, it will actually pop up a warning saying these certificates of insurance are expired, causing somebody on the accounting side to stop, ask some questions to say, hey, we're missing certificate of insurance. Get with the PM. Do we want to continue paying this supplier based, or the subcontractor based on the certificate of insurance being expired? Sage also, as you notice, still, I have not jumped anywhere else in the system. Still right here on the job setup screen. Change orders, change order management, and tracking all of my change orders within the system. Now, Sage does two types of change orders. We talked about one of them earlier, which is a budget change order. Budget and what we call subcontract change order. Subcontractor sends us a change order. We take it on either a pass-through cost, or we add profit and overhead onto it, and then we turn it up to the owner. So the first type of change order that Sage does is what is known as the budget and the actual sub change. How much is it going to cost us to do this particular scope of change? We can change the budget hours as well as the amount, and then if there's any overhead and who the vendor is, if it's on a subcontract or a subcontract line change. Okay. So we have down here is what is our internal estimate, our internal cost. How much is it going to cost us to do for this particular scope of change? The second type of change order is going to be what is known as the owner change order. Unless you're in the business of doing things for free, most times we're going to put profit and overhead on it. Unless there's some cases where we have to do a pass-through cost. I understand that. But a lot of times we have what is called the owner change order, which would include our profit and overhead. And in this case, our internal cost is going to be about $29,920, but we're requesting out to be $39,476.45. And what the owner came back and approved was 37,532.61. So we have what is called our internal change orders, which is our budget change orders. Sometimes you even use it in moving. If you have a contingency in your actual estimate, and you want to take something out of contingency and move it to another cost code, you will use the actual what is called the budget and the sub change detail. Okay. Now, the change order does have what we call ramifications on the AIA side of the house. So once a change order is approved, it can be apprehended to the actual G702, 703 when we go into progress billing. And what that means is it allows it to either be apprehended as a new line item. That way we can either, so if you got an owner that wants to see change orders separately, or you can apprehend them to the cost code that is actually taken in effect. So I can take, when I do my G702, 703, I can do 6200, and it will actually take the change order and update 6200. Okay. Or I can just put it at the apprehended as its own line, and therefore then the owner can see separate change orders. Change orders, AR invoices. So not only do we, track, purchase orders, the committed cost, but we're also able to look at the AR invoices, all the invoices that have been generated against this project, which came, as you can see, I have progress bill 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have progress bills that came in, what the invoice amount, what's been paid against the actual invoice, the balance, and the retention, okay, and what the net due is. And in true fashion and form, can you drill down on this? Yes, you can. So I can take and drill down to the actual AIA. And then if I wanted to get to the actual transaction itself, I can actually drill down even further, and it will take me to the journal transaction. Okay. So giving me to what's actually hitting the GL accounts. Shows me all of my detail, my net due, but also my payments. So lining up all of my payments, the transactions that came along when I enter all the cash receipts or the checks that is associated with this particular project. Then we have some what is called boilerplate information called a contract summary. Original contract, what changes have happened on the contract, what is our new contract amount, what's been revised, what the balance is on the contract, and any the retention and the net due with tax. Then we have what is called our proposal. So we have proposal. So if you think of budget being the actual estimate, proposal is AKA known as the contract. So exactly what my contract amount is. So here's my contract. So budget is estimate, proposal is contract. How much are we charging out to the owner? And in times it comes, those two words become kind of sometimes interchangeable, but they are very different in Sage 100 Contractor. So budget and estimate means cost. How much is it going to cost me? Proposal, contract means revenue. How much am I charging out to the actual contractor? How much we're charging out to the owner of this particular project? Then we have what is called our AP invoices. AP invoices, every piece of AP invoice that is attached to this particular project. So as I go out, I can look at and see the walk-ins. I can drill down again, takes me to the 4.2 screen, which is going to be my AP invoice. It shows that it's been paid. And I bring out all of my AP costs that is associated with this particular project. So anytime it hits a direct expense account, so any of the 5,000s that are going to be on the actual P&L, the income statement, is going to require me to job costs. So therefore, tying out my job cost records to my accounting system, accounting part of my system. So I have, here's the job cost record that it went to because I hit a 5,000 account. What job did it go to? Here's the description. What cost code did it hit? Here's the cost amount. Okay. I can drill down even further because this is what's going to show up on my job cost reports. So all of the job cost reports in the system, and roughly there's around 1,200 reports in Sage 100 Contractor, and there are about 800 of them deal with a project. That's why I said the job is the star of the show, because about 1,200 reports, about 800 of them deal with a project or something from a fashion of a project. Okay. So this will show up on my job cost reports as 33,863. That's what's going to show up on my project for this project, this cost code, this cost type, down to this cost amount. Okay. All of my AP transactions within the project will show right here on this particular screen. It's showing me exactly how much I have invoiced in AP. 354,000 is what's been invoiced. We've paid 199,000, short of 200,000 on this particular project. Then we show our balance if we're tracking retention from the AP, from the vendor standpoint, and the net due. And of course, like I said, the cohesiveness of the system in this particular project, if we're tracking work order, if we're doing work order management, if I'm an HVAC contractor, a plumbing contractor, or a mechanical contractor. So mechanical, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, that ICP, those right here would show actually if they're tracking from a service standpoint, can track all the service work orders against a project. And that concludes the actual overview of Sage 100 Contractor on the job setup. As you can see, there's a lot of information, and I didn't have to go all over the system trying to find information. A lot of the information that I see is right here, 80% of it to be in fact. In our next session, we're kind of going to go through talking about project management and exactly why a contractor will use it from a project management standpoint, such as the budgets, digging a little bit deeper in the budgets, proposals, change order management, looking at some of the reports as the committed cost report, looking at a lot of the job cost reports as the job status, maybe looking at the WIP, and talking about true project management and the cost to complete and the hours to complete. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you on another session.